It's been said before, and I'll say it again. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So where would you rather be than right here and right now on the Ralph Rant? Let's go.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant, your source for hard-hitting Buffalo Bills takes. Now, here's your host of the Ralph Rant, that veteran watcher of generations of Bills teams, the prophet who predicted Josh Allen's greatness, that opinionated so-and-so you've walked out on parties because of, the Ralph.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant. It is game day. It is game day. Got the intro music started a touch late here. Let's just listen, rock for a second, drink your coffee. Welcome in. Well, here we go. Here we go. We really shouldn't be here, right? Because nobody thought the Bills was going to beat. The Bills is the Bills singular or plural? Was going to beat the Jaguars last week. And quite frankly, I mean, CBS Sports had run their playoff brackets to the Super Bowl and had the Jaguars representing the AFC. I believe that the Bills played their most difficult game of the playoffs last week in Jacksonville. And you'll see me put out reasons every week why the Bills will win. I'm actually more sure of it this week, personally, versus the Broncos. I watched these last 6 games the Broncos played, but we're going to get into it, all of it here, of course. To get to the comments, get them back out here. All right, what graphic says Bills? Oh, my God. How did I get that one up there? Oh, you know what? I never changed the title on it. Well, you know what? We could do that right now. Maybe it'll be a repeat of the Jags anyway. That's the win we would like. But this is how easy that is to actually do. Thumb video. That's the one about the 5 reasons. Ah, there's the pregame. Aha. All right. Watch how simply we could do this. This is studio magic at work at the Ralph Rant. This is important. We can't have people think they've gone into a time warp. All right, now we're going to go ahead and save this one. This has become an Adobe Photoshop thing, and we're going to call this one, I think if we call this one the very same name, let's see, we're going to save it right over here. This is doing great, I'm sure, for the watches here, but let's make sure we have this right. So I'm pregame. I can't change the, well, I can go change the other one in YouTube, but right now we'll get it right here on the screen. You want to save that as a ping. Okay. And then we just go over here to our Finder. We're going to go ahead and find that file. Look at what he's doing here at the beginning. Well, it's early. That's everybody just drink up some coffee here, man, and I'll get this thing fixed. That's the one we want. We'll take that over the top of the other one, and then we'll go view. Enter full screen. And there we go. Let's see, I've never done this before, but I'll have to do it now. We have some sounds here. Never used that before, but now we have that changed up. Now the graphic is right. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Sorry for that slight delay. We cannot have poor graphics here. If anybody knows me and this show, I am the chief cook and bottle washer. I do all the design. I do all the scripts. I do all the technical stuff. I do all the in-show production. And yes, I'm accepting applications for the same. Let's get back to the comments here. Your graphic says Bills versus Jags. All right, well, we got it fixed. Thank you, Badass, for pointing that out to me. I made another silly mistake on the magazine that I edit and design every month that I was just informed of. It's like, you look at the details and it's like the big thing looking you right in the face. Anyway, again, game day, 4:30 p.m. our time. It will be 2:30 p.m. in Denver, Mountain Time, at kickoff. It's an away game at a loud stadium, which helps one thing quite a bit. Loud stadiums mean the fans know when to cheer and when not to, and they don't when their offense is on the field, and that happens to be when the Bills' defense will be on the field, and the Bills' defense is able to communicate much better without the noise. And it's something you never really think about, truthfully, but the communication on the Bills' D is important. And, of course, will be today because we're going to be having Hancock and Bishop will be the starting safeties. Jordan Hancock in for the injured Jordan Poyer. But however, Hancock had some flashes last week. I think they're going to be okay. Anyway, let's actually get into it. So Ryan Clark, huh? Cecil's in the house. It's a good hour for you. It's got to be already 5:00 there, right? So you don't have the game until this evening. It's like late prime time, but it won't be that late, which is good. Ryan Clark actually tossed the Bills some love and predicted the Bills' victory. Is this world ending? Here's another one here. Bills Mafia 88. I watched your Bills versus Jags after the post-game stream. After the Bills-Jags game, I enjoyed it, so I subbed. I've been a Bills fan since 1994. Well, thank you very much, Bills Mafia 88, for being here. But let's get into it here. I've got a few things to go through as we normally do. Today, the weather, it's a high of 41 degrees in Denver. Wind will be north at 7 to 11 miles per hour, gusts to 18, so maybe a tad breezy, a low 28 of this evening. Now, it's going to be sunny there today, and that means clear skies. And when we say clear skies, that means when the sun goes down, things cool off that much more quickly. So this temperature is going to get into the mid-30s during this game. And that's pertinent, and I might as well jump right to it here, that the elevation of Mile High, which happens to be a mile high, 5,280 feet, is something that teams worry about, perhaps. You heard the Bills mention it in passing, but not heavily. But it's something to think about when going to play at the Broncos at Empower Field now at Mile High Stadium. And it's important to note that elevation changes a great deal. If any of you are into aviation or pilots at all, you'll know what I'm talking about when I use the term density altitude. And when they talk about density altitude, it's what altitude are you really at based on what the temperature is? Because, of course, when air is warmer, it expands, it is less dense, and less dense air makes you think higher altitude. So just to give you an example, yes, Broncos Field is 5,280 feet. But earlier in the season is when it's difficult, because if the temperature were to get, let's say, to 80 degrees at Mile High Field, the density altitude changes because the air is warmer. And it actually feels like at standard rates of humidity and temperature, it would feel like you're at 8,000 feet, not 5,280. It's a little over 2,600 feet in difference. So at this time of year, though, we're talking more about closer to standard temperature, which for that purpose, it's around 40 degrees as to where this is measured. So at game time, the 5,280 feet will actually feel like 5,280, not higher because it's warmer. And as it gets a little cooler, it'll feel a little bit lower. I think we lose, I forget what the exact number is, but you lose a certain number of feet, like 100 feet or whatever, for every drop in degree Celsius. So I don't think the altitude situation is going to be a problem for the Bills. I think it's going to be cool enough there where it's not a situation. Josh Allen, of course, played his whole college career at 7,200 or is it 6,200 feet, something like that, but at a higher field elevation at Wyoming, of course, than there is in Denver. So he's used to it. Cecil's in 4:10 p.m. here. Oh, okay. So it's only 5 hours, which is with our strange daylight savings business we have here. Players use the elevation chambers past couple of days. They're ready. You bet. You bet. So that covers the. I got my handy marker here. The weather for today, and the weather should not be an issue. Nice sunny day. I think it'll be more comfortable for the Bills. We've got a Bills notification right there, which I did not silent. Oh, the expert picks are in. Well, the expert picks are right here, so you needn't worry about that. Injuries, we know the story mostly. We've got Jordan Poyer and Max Hairston out. And Poyer is probably the one that hurts a little bit more. Hancock was a little bit lost a couple times last week, but I believe this is a good rookie who takes every step he gets on the field and learns from it. And plus, he's got the safety whisperer, Sean McDermott, who we're not saying enough about with McDermott's pass defense. I mean, yes, he does not have the Hyde and Poyer in their prime situation anymore. But nonetheless, I mean, he's been confusing some defenses. And on that note, also, we have got a couple of activations. Ed Oliver is back. He and Curtis Samuel actually have both been removed from IR. They were activated, earlier this week. Curtis Samuel was a full participant. Ed was limited, and they can limit players for whatever reason, any number of reasons. Of course, Ed was dealing not only with the torn biceps, which is now right around the 12-week mark. He will be wearing a brace on that arm that will prevent hyperextension of that elbow and then putting stress on that repair. So he'll have that going. But he also, in rehab, ended up getting a little bit of a meniscus tear, and they had to go in and scope the knee and clean that up a little bit. That's been several weeks ago now. Apparently, he's all right from that. And from what I understand, that meniscus will not have a huge effect on his being able to play in the defensive line position. And I think just his presence there, with the fact that for so long now we've had our rookies, Walker and Sander, in there. Of course, Daquan Jones. Fedarian Mathis has shown some stuff. Big Phil, Jordan Phillips was good while we had him out there. But to get Ed back and then add that to now what Deion Walker and TJ Sanders have learned, I have a feeling this Bills defense is quietly getting better. Everybody is still stuck in the fact that we're going to get crushed by the running game. And you can get hung up on stats. I've seen this so much with the talking heads because stats are looking at this entire, really, almost 4 months of season. And teams change, teams develop. So to think that it just is going to stay the way it is ridiculous. Plus, I believe the Bills They have so much playoff experience that they understand the difference that occurs when you actually arrive at the playoffs. And that gets to one of my reasons I believe the Broncos will win this game. We'll get into those as we go along here. But those are our activations, Ed Oliver and Curtis Samuel. Uniforms today, the Broncos will not be wearing their complete orange crush. They'll be wearing their orange jerseys with white pants and white socks. The Bills are in their white jerseys with the blue pants and blue socks, identical to what they rode into Jacksonville with last week. Now, how are the Bills going to pull this off? And I've got a couple of predictions associated with it, but getting to the 5 reasons also is something I want to look at because, again, the Broncos are coming off the bye. They've had a week of rest. The complete team rested. They didn't even put the operation onto the field, which is different than a team, let's say in week 18, resting starters, but still fielding a team, still going through the action of playing a game. And of course, any injured club certainly could use the bye to try to get guys better. But I think in the case with the Broncos, where Bo Nix has been a bit of a streaky quarterback, he needs to get into a rhythm, and the rhythm to me was broken when they did not play last week. That's a team that probably could have used to play, especially since I am fairly unimpressed with what the Broncos did over the last 6 games of the season. And I went into that in detail. But if you go and look at those last 6 games, I mean, Commanders, they beat in overtime, and they won 5. They went 5-1, but it just was not impressive, and especially not impressive in terms of what their defense should be able to do, but offense is unable to actually capitalize on some of this. But I got accused by some Jags fans last week of, oh, this bastard doesn't watch the games. Guys, I watch all of the games. I watch every single NFL game, all of them. Some of them in condensed form, running through play to play, but I watch all of the games, and there is such a thing as the eyeball test. So what are some of the keys for today? Well, the Bills faced a good defense last week. One of the best defenses against the run in the league. And they held the Bills pretty well. James Cook did not get out of control with them. They held him and the Bills to about their average yards that they allowed every week. And the thought is that, okay, this is another good run-stopping defense, but it is not the same. It really is not. The Broncos' defensive line is anchored by Zach Allen, and it's important to note that the Broncos do run a different sort of defense than the Bills normally see. They run odd front, and that used to be called maybe a 3-4. Well, what they actually are running there is more of a 5-2, where you've got a nose tackle, and in this case, DJ Jones is their nose, but he's 6 foot 305. That's not very big for a nose. And then you've got guys that are called defensive ends, but they're actually they're playing more of a 5-tech rather than a 3-tech. They're all penetrating defensive linemen. But guys like Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers, 6'5", 285, 6'4", 288. And these are smaller guys, and they're called defensive ends. So if people want to compare them to defensive ends, say, well, that's a reasonable size. They're big for that. they're not really playing edge. They're either lined up outside the guards or nose up or outside the tackles even. That gives you basically your 3-4. You've got a nose tackle and these two so-called defensive ends who are really more defensive tackles. More like a 3-tech or a 5-tech, like think TJ Sanders or Deion Walker for that matter. The Bills really don't have a pure nose tackle. If the closest thing they maybe have to it is Daquan Jones. But then the Broncos also use outside guys to make that situation a 5-2. And you've got their linebackers, Alex Singleton, Nick Bonito, who we know well. And these are guys that are more in the 240, 245 range. But they're not playing like Bills linebackers who are usually a little more adept at both stopping the run and pass coverage. These are more downhill guys that act more like edge players than outside linebackers. That's where they get their 5-2 that they run a lot. So they'll basically have 3 defensive linemen, 2 more guys I might call outside linebackers, but they're essentially edge players. Then you've got 2 linebackers behind them. And then you've got your 2 corners and your 2 safeties. And, of course, in that, they run a lot of man coverage, obviously, because you've got more guys in front. But overall, this is a smallish defensive front. And the Buffalo Bills have a biggish offensive line. And I think the Bills have a mind to go in there and get this running game turned around from what it was last week and start moving some people out of the way and getting James Cook going. I would expect to see the Bills try to work some inside zone, because in an inside zone situation, that takes away the advantage of speedy defensive front players because you're running right at them, as opposed to running wide or outside zone where now you've got the ability for people to pursue. If they do run outside or wide zone at all, I'm supremely hoping that the Bills employ some backside seals on some of these runs. I mean, some of what we saw happen in Jacksonville wasn't so much about the actual zone blocking. What was happening is you had fast defenders coming in behind the play and trying to intercept Cook's cutback, and that's what you saw a lot of. But I'm sure Aaron Cromer knows all of this and is handling that. I see the Bills hopefully running more at 12 and 13 personnel, and that's got a double sort of purpose. Not only are the Bills down on receivers, although I'll have more to say about that, but yes, indeed, the loss of Gabe Davis and Tyrell Shavers hurts tremendously. Shavers is great on special teams. That hurts. They're both good blocking wide receivers. But if Denver's running a lot of man and the Bills are going to run more 12 and 13 personnel, which of course means that the first number is how many running backs you have. 11 or 12 would mean 1 running back. And then 11 or 12 or 13 personnel, the second number, 1, 2, or 3, refers to the number of tight ends you have on the field. And I could see the Bills maybe even running some 13 personnel today, especially when you can, if you get the run game going at all, and then can have like a Jackson Hawes, who is, they'll think is obviously there to block, leak out, or even Dawson Knox, or even Kincaid, who is more of a pure passing threat, although Kincaid can block also. And if they can get going on like that, on the Broncos like that, especially because the Broncos, pardon me, are not particularly good at coverage on the linebacking level. They're more downhill, thumping linebackers. You've heard me talk about those on this show. but that could hurt them in pass coverage. The Bills have also will bring up a call up, if you want to call it that, the Frank Gore Jr., because I believe that Ty Johnson, once again, will not be available to the Bills today. And I have a feeling that Frank Gore Jr. could do a couple of really good things in this game. He did last week. You recall the catch he made outside when he was in for a play. But I've also got this feeling. I just have this feeling that Keon Coleman is going to kind of break out. I don't know what they've gone through with him. I know it's been a big deal in part because it was as public as it was made. But the guy's been on a journey. And sometimes people at that age, just the maturity is difficult. It's understandable. But if they've got him where he's coming around now, you saw him make a great catch on the sideline and get some yards after last week. I expect Keon Coleman to have a good, positive impact with the Bills also. Let's get into some of your comments here. Let's see where we were. Elevation Chambers. JP is here with us. I love how Ralph is a blend of meteorologist, mad scientist, and diehard Bills fan. Best game analysis on the internet, period. Smash that like button. Like the Bills are going to smash the Pygmy ponies. JP, thank you very, very much for that. Thank you so much. And again, if anybody's here new to the show, I think it's probably mostly regulars. But we've got the few people over on X, and then the lot of you here on YouTube. But indeed, if you're new to the show, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 2,000 subs by the time I do the Super Bowl pregame show. We don't have long. But the past 1,500 now, it's been doing great. So I thank you very, very much for that. And thank you all of the regulars. And I don't want to plagiarize another very popular Bills podcast, but the everydayers, and you know who you are. Thank you very much. Philosopher, I'm not sure about that one. Thank you, though, Cecil. Old dudes are playing big. Trey, Shaq, and Cooks. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the points about this game is that the Bills are battle tested in the playoffs. My number 4 reason, counting from 5 down, the first one was about the rest versus rust. I think the rest is not going to help the Broncos. And why is that? Well, to me, the Broncos' last 6 games, it was a different team than some of what they were doing earlier. Yes, they were still winning games. And yes, they beat Green Bay. They certainly did. But I think there's some number out there that when another team scores X amount on the Broncos, they won't keep up. And you've seen it. The offense has been streaky. Denver had to win their games. If you count back from the last game, they were playing starters against the Chargers in Week 18. The Chargers were resting because they didn't really care which seed they got, apparently. It ended up being 5, 6, and 7 was Houston, Buffalo, and the Los Angeles Chargers. Had the Bills lost to the Jets, then the Bills would have been the 6th seed because the Chargers had the tiebreaker on them. But the Chargers, sitting at 6, the Bills came in there at 7, I believe. They apparently did not care which seed they ended up with. So they rested Herbert and rested other starters in Week 18. And yet, the Broncos, who had to win that game. They had to win because the Patriots were probably going to win because the Patriots were getting chased down by Jacksonville for the second seed. And then in turn, the Patriots themselves were chasing down Denver for the number 1 seed. So Denver had to win in order to ensure the 1 seed. If they lose and the Patriots win, the Patriots would have gotten the 1 seed. Hell, if they'd both lost and the Jaguars won, the Jaguars would have gotten the 1 seed, I believe. And the Jaguars themselves were playing to secure the AFC South because they knew Houston would probably win their game versus the Colts. And you chase this all the way down. But the fact is the Broncos needed to win that last game against the Chargers, and they could only manage 1 touchdown, which was a defensive score. Otherwise, they kicked 4 field goals. And the Chargers put up their usual late season 3 points, just like they did to the Patriots. I don't think much of the Chargers in terms of their ones. Their offensive line got wrecked, and I have never, ever, ever believed that Justin Herbert is the phenom they're trying to make him out to be. He reminds me of just some great tall geek. I think if you remember the Munsters, and there was an episode about Moose Mallory, the big basketball player, and Herman ends up taking his spot on the college team. That's Moose Mallory. That's what Herbert reminds me of. But we're talking about the Broncos. Yes, you, the Broncos. And you didn't dominate in that game. The week before, Christmas night, I sat and watched it. And I was 5x5 and alert, even though all the feasting. And Kansas City was playing. Gardner Minshew had just got knocked out of the playoffs and lost Patrick Mahomes to multiple torn ligaments in his left knee. And the Broncos were in trouble some of that game. It was close. They only won 20-13. And then you can go to the weeks before that. Jacksonville went out there and cleaned their clock. And Jacksonville, I watched that game again closely, and it's surprising. You watch the first half of that game, you don't think Jacksonville might win because they just didn't get it going on them. But end up beating the Broncos 34-20. And I think the rest is not going to help the Broncos. I mean, coming off the 6 games that they played, which were sort of middling in terms of the eyeball test, then taking a week off, and then the next time you step on the field is against the most difficult out in the playoffs, the Buffalo Bills, who have been there every season, who have essentially played almost a season of playoff games to the Broncos' 60 minutes of playoff games in the experience of the current regimes. Coming out to that intensity, and also we're hearing about all the Bills are banged up. Josh Allen is so hurt. I don't know what Josh is made of, but you don't see videos of him working on leg machines or any kind of lifting thing like that, because guys can wear their tendons out and so forth. What you see Josh doing is picking up the big irrigation ditch sections of tube. This is whole body stuff. You know what my workout is? I go out and chop firewood, cut it with a chainsaw, hauling the chunks, split it. It's whole body stuff. And that is what makes Josh so sturdy. But this business about the Bills being beat up largely stems from, Ty Johnson's hurt. That's the third down back. That's important. But all the talk about the receivers, Josh Palmer out. I don't know if is Palmer out or they put him on IR. That's actually what I'll need to get an answer on. But of course, Gabe, and then Ty Shavers. And I think that's the three that they're down. But if you remember back to the Brady Patriot days, they used to bring in like any old receiver that would do great there. And why? Because there's not this dramatic difference in talent levels. There's some guys that are a bit faster than others. There's some guys that have a bit better hands than others. But in terms of there being these dramatic talent differences, you can go out and you can win with the receivers the Bills have because you've got a quarterback that's playing like he is. But this idea that the Bills are so beat up, their offensive line's not beat up. The defensive line's not beat up. In fact, their defensive line is getting somebody back. But no, we're national guys, and, we can't do any better to study up on the people we're talking about. If I was getting paid that kind of money, man, my nose is in that constantly. I'd love that. But they don't do that. They don't learn the truth. Even like one of my now new least favorite game analyst. A lot of people had Tony Romo up there. And listen, he takes home the bronze on a lot of occasions. And then Chris Collinsworth perhaps was a shoe-in for the gold all the time. But to me, he's only a silver medalist. Because Kirk Herbstreit should get back to the college game and stay there. Because when he does make analysis, a lot of the times he needs to put on his cap that says Captain Ron Obvious. But the thing that really, really ticks me off about Kirk Herbstreit is how many times he'll refer to a player by their number when reviewing a play. Haven't you had the whole week to figure out what these rosters are? I would have this stuff so well memorized. It'd be so straightforward. I know players' names, and you see him do it in college games and in pro games. And thank God Amazon is done presenting the NFL for the year now. We do have certain things to be thankful for. But anyway, getting back to this national perception that the Bills are this beat-up squad that's like limping in. Come on, man. Let's be real. So my number 5 reason, of course, was the rest versus rust thing. I think the Broncos don't have the feel of the intensity that is going to occur on that field. The Bills are a well-oiled, battle-tested road machine. And I believe, and I said this before the game last week, I believe that the Bills played their most difficult playoff game last week versus the Jaguars. And there were a lot of people that thought the Jaguars could go play at a Super Bowl. And that wasn't unfounded. They had the good wins towards the end of the season. Broncos did not. The number 2 reason was the 14-1 experience gap. Bills have played 14 playoff games with Josh Allen, I believe. He's 8-6 in those games with his very first road win this season. And Hear that squeaking? That's our garage door down there. That's a reminder. This program is brought to you by Ralph's Garage Door Oiling System. But that 14-1 experience gap, I mean, Josh Allen, now 26 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He ranks number 1 in a number of playoff quarterbacking stats. He's tied for 3rd, I believe, in highest passer rating in a single game. He was amazing last week, and he only made just really the one really long throw downfield to Cooks for 36. But I could see it before the game. I mean, there was a look on his face. It was like this meditating look. Let's fucking turn it on now. Throttles forward, and they're on a mission now, and people think they're beat up. Oh well, you know. The number 3 reason I had was the betting line that came out at Bills -1.5. The Bills opened as an underdog. And this is where the wise guys are brilliant on this, because the same thing this week happened last week with the Jaguars. The Bills open as 1.5-point favorites on the road. They didn't set that number there for nothing, because that's what they really think. But then you get this national perception and talking heads that don't really understand or know the truth come out and stating, well, no, this isn't going to be the case. And so people start thinking, no, this line is crazy. The Broncos are going to win this game. So all this money starts moving over to the Broncos. And of course, then the line moves now to where I think it's currently, somebody can update me if you're looking it up, but it's currently now Broncos -1.5. Now, you've got to consider 2 or 3 points for home field advantage. Always remember that. They don't count that in there, but that is to say, on a neutral field, Buffalo might still be favored a bit. But what I'm explaining here, though, is the idea that the wise guys know the Bills are tough and know all the things that I've been telling you, plus, like I said, maybe many things I haven't even thought of. But then they know the money's going to move over to the Denver side because, that's a great bet. Bills minus something. I'll take that all day, right? This is what some of them would say. And so now the line moves because there's more money coming on that side, which, of course, they love to see because people forget where they set that line to start with. That's the meaningful point. And the very same thing happened last week with the line moving to the Jaguars by 1.5 after it opened Bills -1.5. Let's get back to your comments here. Where were we? I think this is one. Is Ty Johnson out? Bills elevated Gore again. Well, I think they have the elevations, and they may well also be elevating because they put Samuel and Oliver went right back on the roster, obviously, because they'll get grabbed if you put them to the practice squad. At this point, your practice squad getting rated is probably not something that's going to happen as much, but I think if they elevate Gore, they can add him. It's going to be up to the inactives, which we'll see about 3:00 today after we're done. But we'll probably be able to get an idea of the inactives. But that Ty Johnson may well be out again, and I think Frank Gore, obviously not the experience, but I think one thing if I can fault the Bills for sometimes that it seems like other teams give rookies more of a shot, and to me, the most important thing about getting better is getting reps on the field. But I think at this point, Gore actually can be of some help, so I'm guessing Johnson's out. Morning, Ralph. I'm a nervous wreck already, but I'm ready for anything. This is going to be a huge task. Here's hoping, brother. Mark, yes, sir, that is absolutely true. But again, I've got a feeling. And I'll share it with you guys because, I've gotten in the habit of, sticking opinions out there and having my neck out mile and insisting the Bills will win these games. But there is something about this team. And I think the Bills have termed it, using terms like toughness or mental toughness. There's physical toughness, of course. Josh has been demonstrating that. My goodness. But there's also the mental toughness aspect of it. And then another term the team has used has been grit. And to me, if you watch this show at all, you know what I'm talking about when I'm saying a hive mind of the Bills. This sort of collective consciousness of the Bills where the team will react in a second half and play better because they feel threatened. And you hear coaches say, well, no, there really weren't any adjustments made per se. And then you'll ask guys in the locker room, well, what happened out there? How was it? What was different? We didn't do anything different. I don't have an answer for you, or I don't know. That's Trey White. I don't know, Sal. I don't know. Unquote. Because there is something with this team, and I've tried to capture it with a couple of videos I've done. I've described them as a predator. Now, a predator, by that, I don't mean this big monster that is like Godzilla, can kill anything in its sight. Predators have to protect themselves because, a predator can't get hurt. And predators are usually hungry. That's what makes them predators. But I think Josh tried to explain it a little bit the other day in his presser when he talked about the Bills just having this ability to not fucking blink, which is really what they're saying. As games become more critical and more important as you approach the end of the season for seeding and then certainly in the playoffs, the stakes become much higher. And what happens with football momentum, if you could put an equation to it, there would have to be some sort of exponential factor added to momentum, upwards or downwards, that occurs in a game of higher stakes, especially a playoff game. And things can get away from teams pretty quickly. So the Buffalo Bills, what's different about them this season? They really haven't gone out and clowned some other teams. They haven't put up really big numbers. Couple of games. They beat up on the Jets a little bit. They beat up on the Panthers a bit. I mean, frankly, there weren't a lot of other scores. I mean, the only time they ever got blown out by double digits was against the freaking Dolphins during the lull down in shitty, humid, rainy Miami. But the Bills have been to the postseason so often. It's like, you wouldn't be excited about Christmas if it happened every month. Or even actually every quarter. Once a year. And this is playoff season, and the intensity is just different. And I know some people think, well, players get paid all this money. There shouldn't be any need for motivation. Horse shit. They're human beings. And you cannot have that edge all the time. In fact, the consciousness of being human, you have to know the existence of bad to have anything to compare it to call it good. But the Bills have demonstrated grit. And it's something that's been in the team since the start. I mean, my goodness, the very first game in the comeback against the Ravens, And, didn't really have games where they appeared to be dominating. Although a little bit of it did happen later in the season. I mean, they were winning going away in Pittsburgh. And they were winning going away in New England. Guys, that game goes hypothetically for another couple of quarters. It would have been 54-31 Buffalo. I think the Bills are predatory. I think this hive mind might even allow offenses to go out and get a little bit comfortable just to start a game, lulling them into a sense of comfort. And we've seen it happen, and then we saw Josh Allen play maybe one of the best games of his career. And no, it wasn't the falling out of bounds throw that whoever caught against Kansas City. You remember the play I'm talking about in the playoffs. It wasn't those kind of heroics. It wasn't this impassioned thing of, just got to be. These fucking guys are surgical. I mean, they're just like, you don't even see. Yeah, they're excited for a score, but you could even see the locker room listening to Josh after the game. All this does is earn us another game. I don't think there's any way the Denver Broncos can envision or even understand the mindset the Buffalo Bills are coming into this game with. We'll see. We'll see. But if you guys, want my honest to God, straight up prediction, I don't predict scores normally. I think Buffalo's got to kick their ass up one side of the field and down the other. Now, when Buffalo wins this game, they will have instantly achieved a rest advantage on their next opponent. Because whoever that would be is not playing till tomorrow night. So the Bills will get a rest advantage in the AFC title game, which would be one of my reasons they will win it. But I'm expecting a win today. Let's get back to the comments here. So, Mark, don't be a nervous wreck. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. Joe Brady will be a huge factor. Game scheme to eliminate their pass rush will be huge. If he wants a Ravens head coaching job, he needs these victories. Absolutely. And I think if you look at their pass rush, I mean, Buffalo has had experience with this. Last week, they had it versus Houston. They've felt good pass rushes. And I think the most important thing you can battle that with, if you can get it going, will be the running game, and especially inside zone. You negate the speed of a defensive line when you're running inside because you're just hitting them at the point of attack. And the Buffalo Bills up front on offense are a lot bigger than the Bronco defenders that'll be across the line from them. They are, guys. They are. And I have a feeling Buffalo's going to attack it like that. And who knows if they want to not spread them out, go play in 11 or 12, or rather 12 or 13 personnel, 2 or 3 tight ends, have much bigger blocking surfaces available to them, but 3 tight ends who are all capable of catching the ball and getting yardage. And especially if you're talking about working that middle based on how Denver's going to be covering. Because if they're going to be bringing this 5-2 a lot, that means they've got 4 guys in the secondary, 2 corners and 2 safeties. And they might try to play some kind of a shell on Buffalo if they think that Josh wants to air it out a little bit in that nice thin air. But I think the Buffalo Bills' grit, this predatory ability to not be like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park that nothing can mess with it. It's more like a raptor that's intelligent and knows when to attack and knows how to take advantage. And there's just this cold, surgical, just hostile approach that they have. And I think they got tested biggest. And of course, now you've got the Texans and New England are in the other game. That's why this is important, and get this one today, because the Bills have already demonstrated they can confuse Drake May. And I would like their chances a lot against New England. And as far as a matchup against Houston goes, yes, it would be back in the House of Horrors. But Buffalo has already taken care of one House of Horrors last weekend in Jacksonville. That's number one. Number two, it's very difficult to beat a team twice in one season. A little different with the Patriots. They split, so there's really not that tension there. But there's definitely the tension with the Texans, who, yeah, they've got a great defense. And yeah, Buffalo had to deal with it and didn't deal with it correctly at times. But the Bills were still a play from winning that game. And I'm watching C.J. Stroud of the Texans. Again, I watch all the games. And McDermott is going to eat him for lunch. They had far more control on Davis Mills when the Bills played their backup, you recall. And, again, you got to figure it out. There's going to be some kind of lull, or whatever you want to call it. Let's get back to the comments here. If I can find this mouse. Mouse has been giving me trouble lately. Dante Jenkins is with us. 31-19 Bills. 31 would match the number they put on them last season. I think you're going to get more pass rush today, because I think just the addition of Ed Oliver is going to bring attention to the inside. And if they can collapse the inside, that's how to win in the playoffs with pass rush. Your edges, yes, that's important, but your pass rush up through the middle that's what's going to win you games. Badass he's got Cooks, not Cook, for 2 touchdowns and 127 receiving yards. That dude's a pro, and he's been on some squads. He brings a really great thing. I like Brandon Cooks a lot. I don't bet on football. The house takes 15%. There you go. Quarterbacks in NFL history that have completed passes to a father and a son: Josh Allen, Frank Gore, and Frank Gore Jr. End of list. That's a great stat. That's a great stat. And I think more to come. I think Frank Gore Jr. is a good football player. He's one of these guys that just the measurables don't really show up, but then it's like the dude just gets yards. Bills by 100. Commodity and Mo Brown, thank you so much. Again, guys, I hope if you are new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We're just getting warmed up. The coffee's going here. We will have a post-game show regardless of the outcome, obviously, but that's going to be a blast, because I have a feeling, again, the Bills are going to romp today. That'll be immediately following the game within 15 minutes or so. I'll probably schedule it for 7:45 when I do so. But if it, for whatever reason, but it will be there at some point. Keon Legacy game coming. I said it. You're saying it now. I love it. Thanks, Mo. This could have been a big game for Ty Johnson, but I guess he's not playing. Yeah, exactly. They'll need Ty as we get along here in these playoffs. Stevie Johnson said Keon gets 2 TDs. I like it. Thank you, badass. Jason Bush is with us. Good morning, Bills Mafia. Bills 31, Denver 24. I think our wide receivers show up today and don't count Cook out. Oh, yeah, absolutely not. Mark, lots of people are saying that too, Ralph, about last week being the toughest one. If they get past today, this could be the year. Yeah, I think, I mean, again, go look at their last 6 games. And as I explained on the video this week, I had a hard time because I wanted to do the same thing I did with Jacksonville last week. Go look at the last 6 games, that each team played and just study them. Last week, I was able to find that although Jacksonville was maintaining a winning streak, the cumulative winning percentage of their opponents, that would be their strength of schedule essentially, was only .343. That means the opponents they played in those last 6 games, when all was said and done at the end of the season, those 6 opponents only won 1 out of 3 games. So beating them is not as impressive, let's say. But one of the wins that Jacksonville did get was against the Broncos. And yeah, I have a feeling about this season. And it's funny because it's not a season where we're talking about the Bills. Like I said earlier, they haven't clowned a lot of people. They haven't put big numbers up. Remember the Decembers that we had in these years past, winning AFC East and just beating teams by 20 and 30 points? Yeah. It's the wrong time to peak. It's great to do that, but being good doesn't teach you about what the NFL, which the NFL is about losing. That's the overriding emotion. That's what you're trying to get over, get by, or actually even feel good for what it can do for you, like Josh Allen himself says. But I don't know. I just looked at their last 6 games, and like I said, the strength of schedule was similar to the Bills. The record was exactly the same as the Bills. So what differentiated? Because it just didn't look right to me. So I invented my new NFL stat, which is called the Ralph Rant, or CEI, complementary, as in complementary football, per Sean McDermott, efficiency index, CEI. And it's a little bit arbitrary, but it's not arbitrary. I essentially took points for and points against and made a ratio of that, as well as adding into it yards for and yards against. And then weighted these ratios with with other factors, away or home, where the turnovers for and turnovers against. I think there's a number in there that weights for splash plays with varying weights. And of course, you try it. It's a bit arbitrary, but you look at the results and you get a feel that it's actually depicting some sort of a range. But basically, that all of that math I just described boils down to a number. And if the number were 1.00, that means the team is dead even on everything, where this index and this ratio ends up at 1-to-1, highly unlikely. But anything over 1 indicates winning, and anything under 1 indicates sort of a losing thing. And I did this calculation for each of the individual 6 games that the teams played, both Buffalo and the Broncos, in their last 6 games of the season. And I got those numbers, and you could see the trends. And certainly when the Bills beat Pittsburgh 26-7, where offense is doing very well and the defense too, well, that ends up in being a high number. I think it was the high 2s or low 3 point something. And then it could get low under 1, for example, for the Broncos when they lost to the Jaguars at home. But I worked these out, and I came up with the bottom numbers. And again, the Bills were like a 2.05, and Broncos were 1.41. And it's it's different than EPA or DVOA. Expected points added or defensive value over average is what those mean. And those are highly used stats. They'll take a given team's particular circumstance, down, distance, field position, even time on the clock, any parameter that you could ascribe to that situation they're in, and then compare that situation to what has now been so many other plays when you look at the entire lot. So many other plays that are the exact same situation or very close to it within the tolerances. And then you look at the result of that team's play compared to the average of everyone. And that's the expected points added comes from how they index out that one. Same with DVOA. It's a play-by-play. But what you're doing is you're comparing your team's offense to all the other offenses that have ever been, or the same on defense. Whereas the Ralph Rank is not looking at that. What it's looking at is how efficiently you play. How you, first of all, if you're efficient because you're just winning the score, winning yardage. I mean, the Bills, for example, had a CEI over 1 for their loss to the Eagles. But the Bills, of course, the ratio of the points was low, and the Bills got a lot of yardage on the Eagles in the second half. So it does account for it accounts for this complementary efficiency is what I'm saying. And for the Broncos to be a little bit lower with purportedly as good a defense as they have, though I didn't really see it as much in those last 6 games, it just means that they're not taking advantage of their opportunities. Perhaps the defense gives them if they're getting them. And I think you've got a quarterback with 1 game worth of playoff experience against this very team. And I think the Buffalo Bills are just going to be a different thing than these guys have seen in their last 6 games, none of which includes a playoff game. Where are we here? Let's see. 31-24 from Jason Bush. We got that. Lots of people. Let's see. 2 touchdowns. That's from Cecil. 2 TDs from Keon. 100-1 bet. Okay. Only 2 games to go to get the Super Bowl. Allen and Cook have this. Let's go, Buffalo. Nobody scares me on this Denver offense. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Denver has the injury advantage, the rest advantage, the home field advantage. I'm not feeling good. I hope I'm wrong. Dominic, injury advantage. I mean, what is that? Because the Bills are down a couple of receivers. The rest advantage, it's rust. I think the Bills are a far more well-oiled machine that just went through and did this 6 days ago and are ready to jump right back on that bike because they know where they are and they've positioned themselves for this. And I think Denver is, coming out after, having rested. And it's, rest is good, but with a young quarterback and no, rhythm established, and I didn't see much rhythm established even when they were playing their final 6 regular season games, then you take a week off and now you're going to face this? the last team you want to face in the playoffs, the Buffalo Bills. So, no, start feeling good. Yeah, it could be tough. This is a good team. They're the number one seed, certainly. They've demonstrated an ability to come back late against teams, certainly. But, the one thing is that a lot of the teams in the playoffs this season, including the Bills, but not including the Bills, actually, because what were the Bills last season? The Bills were division winners last season. And that's a bit of the huge difference with the seeds this year, because across the NFL, the guard has changed a little bit, and you've got different teams sitting in the playoffs than you've seen. And why is that? Well, because teams can turn things around more quickly. First-year coaches doing well. I mean, New England and Jacksonville are perfect examples. 4-13 both last season, and then winning streaks of 10 and 8 games, both of which were ended by the Buffalo Bills. But nonetheless, having come from one year to the next to be able to do that, these big changes are common. But what you have going on in the NFL is you've got a lot of second and third place and even fourth place division placement, I'm talking about, teams from last season. Patriots were a 4. Jacksonville was a 3. Or maybe the 4. I'm not sure. The Bills weren't. The Bills were number 1 in their division. That's why they keep on playing the Chiefs, because the Chiefs were always number 1 in their division. And of course, you mix that in with the fact that the who you play division-wise rotates as they go through NFL seasons. But it just lined up. It lines up again. The Chiefs will visit the new stadium this next season. And that's not on a first place schedule business. That's on the thing. But when we're talking about these lower place schedules, what they do is they change the teams that you play from the rest of your division opponents by 3. That's 3 games. It's more than 1/6 of the season. About 18%, something like that. So that's why, these teams that are in these 1 seeds and so forth, well, they weren't playing first place schedules, and it does matter. Relaxer. Palmer is on IR. Thank you very much. I thought he was. So that's that's a shame with Palmer, because I think he could have done some good things, but I think this creates the opportunities for Keon Coleman. And I don't know if they activate him or not. I don't know if they've got the roster spot. But Christian Wilkerson, if you recall him from preseason, I really liked Wilkerson. And he's not a rookie. He's a veteran. So that could be a situation the Bills might like. His Majesty, 3567 Palmer's on IR. Thank you very much. I'm way behind on these comments. Obviously, it's been a while. New faces on here, though. Guys, go ahead and just hit that subscribe button right below there. Takes a nanosecond. Trying to get these numbers up. We will be back with a post-game show tonight. Palmer was a waste of a roster spot. I'm not going to take the energy to try to mount an argument to that. Go Bills. Take it to the house, boys. Dominic Orsini saying, but you never know. Yep. Let them think we are beat up. They are in for a surprise. Ivan and me is here with us. The spread is a scam. Perhaps. Well, they wouldn't be doing it in any other way except what they hope to make them money. But it's used anyway. Bills' offensive line is about to dominate the Broncos. We're bigger and a lot more physical. Jason Bush, thank you very much. Absolutely correct, sir. Woke as Joke is with us. Make no point of the line. We just need to execute and win. Take your heart pills now. This will be close. Go Bills. Yeah, that zone we all enter when these games start. My goodness. I put 100 on Denver to win only because the Bills' injuries are insane and they are 14-1 at home. Okay. Too bad Ty Johnson had to play to get his incentive, and now he's hurt the last two games. Supposed to be a team game, not individual stats. That's another one I'm not going to attempt to argue with. Yes, this could have been a big game for T. Yeah, for Ty Johnson, I believe you're talking about. Yep, big game for Ty. Yep. Why does Brady continually put Josh into compromising situations? He's banged up regardless of what everyone thinks. A win would be nice, but a healthy win is just as important. Well, certainly. I don't know what situations you're actually referring to. I guess what in terms of like running him. I mean, let's be clear on one thing, and hopefully it's not the case today. Jacksonville was fucking dirty. They're the ones that put the hit on Gabe Davis, though. I mean, they're dirty. Go watch the film. And then, as Forrest Gump once said, that's all I got to say about that. But maybe Gore will have had more time to practice. I like Gore over the last two preseasons. Absolutely. Jimmy Key is here. Ralph, Bills by $1 billion, brother. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Jeff Nowajoski. No, Jeff Nowajoski. Sorry for butchering it, man. They'd never let me announce a game. Happy Bills Day, Ralph. Bills 31-14. Kincaid is over 100 reception and Cook over 100 and 2 tutties. Go Bills. Nowajoski, I think that is. All right, Jeff, thank you very much. Again, if you're new to the channel, I expect just slam the subscribe button, and we'll go for a while as long as we've got comments flowing here. It's not like the game is starting at 1:30. Get Josh on the move. Forget the drop back. Well, if he can get rid of it quickly, it could be a tight end game for the Bills. We'll see also. That's Tory71. Thank you, sir, for being here. Jeff's here. Edward Oliver returning is a huge toughness and heart infusion to our defense. Oh, yeah. The fact that Ed can get back to it, and actually this season, that's really meaningful. It's got to be highly meaningful to him to be there, especially with, the Bills had to win last week for him to be there. Did you watch Gruden's analysis of Bills versus Broncos on YouTube? At work until 7. Hopefully you can watch it during and catch the end. Dennis, welcome in this morning, or now this afternoon. I've run across the thumbnail a couple of times and I haven't yet. And I've got to see that. I've got to see it. I like Gruden. I think Gruden's brilliant. He had, or didn't use his head on a couple of things maybe in the past. Not that any of it's excusable because I just won't go there, but he does know his football, I think, though. Broncos struggled with a beat-up Chiefs third-string quarterback. Yeah, I watched that game, Tori. Christmas night. Absolutely. Was that already when they were playing, Chris Oladokun, I believe was his name, for the Chiefs quarterback? Yeah. Gruden picked Broncos in a close game. Yeah, I don't. Whatever happened to Codrington on kick returns? They released him, I think, the back-a-ways because whoever they are going to have do kick returns has to do something else for the team, and that's all Codrington was doing. And it's tough to have a roster spot just for that one role on the team. Now you've got Shakir back there who's pretty sure-handed. Hardman, it'll be interesting to see who they activate for wide receivers today. Activate or bring up, as it were. Mo Brown, yeah, can't wait, baby. Yeah, badass. Gore Jr. is like his dad, quiet. Gore Sr., third all-time NFL career rushing yards. Absolutely correct, sir. Absolutely correct. So anyway, we're at the point where just we're going to watch what happens, certainly, and we know the sort of heaven and hell it is to go into watching a Bills game. I don't know how some of you guys watch it. I'm on my feet for the entire game and have been for every single Bills game for quite some time. I'm gonna bring this microphone up. I've been slouching lately, and yeah, that's much better, right? That's much better. But definitely stand up for every single game. I'd like to hear how you guys actually consume the games. I do take notes. I've gotten to where I'm good at taking them during the media breaks, because unlike other games, I do not watch the Bills accelerated or not. And I'll tell you what, last week I actually tried to do the thing with WGR and had the live radio telecast synced up with the television. Now that's downstairs in the living area that's got a big tall ceiling though. So when I had the studio monitors kind of cranked way up, you could hear it down there really well. But I don't know, it wasn't doing it for me last week. And then I just went back to how I watch a lot of the games. It won't be today because Taylor Salty's coming and she'll be here to watch the game. And so will Mrs. Ralph. So everybody will be here. And but they'll be yelling and screaming for sure. And if I have much of a voice after the game and I'm smiling, that will be just as fine with me. So, again, but I'm predicting the Bills win this ball game, and I just don't think the Broncos understand what's coming this afternoon. Couple more comments here. Oh, got to get this one in. Badass. Oh no, Salty, go to theater or something. LOL. No, that's okay. She could come like every other. You'll be happy to know that she won't be able to watch the championship game next week for that very reason. But when she comes home and her mother is off fetching her right now from university. Who else we've got going here? Yeah, that's right. Gruden picked the Broncos. That was from His Majesty. Yeah, Gruden would. We got Codrington. Can't wait. Absolutely. Badass. Gorju. Oh, we got these already. Oh, no. Salty, go to the theater. We got that one. Fume Drummer. This is new. Oh, I like how you have studio monitors lying around. Rock on. Well, they're just like, desktop, I guess. Ones. They're Event 2020s, but they're old, but they're great. And actually got to make sure they're turned off when I'm doing the Ralph. You hear this hum in the background because the mic picks up so well. See, you can hear me at this when I grab the mic. I don't know how Colin Cowherd does. He's always grabbing onto his mic during his show and moving it around, and always has it kind of aimed next to him because he doesn't want his voice to be deep like the radio. But that's all the fun we have with microphones here and all the fun we're going to have watching this Bills game today. So let's get out of here. Thanks very much. You know everything I know. I'm expecting a win. I'm expecting the Bills to dominate today. And just look at all the reasons and it's clear. So here's to the Bills winning. The last of the coffee. Now let's get on with it and get prepared. Thank you very much for being here, as always, of course. Again, if you're new, go ahead and subscribe. We will be back with a post-game show approximately 7:45 p.m. Eastern. 15 minutes after 3 hours allotted for the game. We changed that. But I'll be back with more, and we'll be covering what should be what I am prophesying a Bills win today in Denver in the divisional round of the playoffs. So with that, be good, do good. God bless and go Bills. I am the Ralph, and this is the Ralph Rant. Out.